The 1991 movie Hook is a textbook on how we botch the whole joy thing. Peter Banning is a phone-glued merger shark who misses his son's first pitch because a client yells louder than a 10-year-old in cleats. He flies to London anyways, beeper stapled to his soul, and keeps dialing while the Atlantic rolls by underneath. In Neverland, he can't taste the imaginary feast until he pretends. He can't fly until he stops trying to win and starts trying to play. The Lost Boys cheer, the pirates are defeated, the children are freed. Then the camera finds the briefcase, salt-stained, cracked open, full of nothing but wet paper and ruined appointments. The film calls it a victory. The audience is meant to feel the same relief you get when the alarm clock in a dream smashes itself silent. The movie makes adulthood the villain whose briefcase must wash away before magic can start. The message is sneakingly uniform. To reclaim wonder, you must abandon the cubicle, the calendar, the commute, because the child and the adult can't share the same address. But the child never left the office. It's just been hiding under the inbox, waiting for the adult to stop scheduling long enough to notice the carpet is still a lava flow. Mary Poppins is a perfect example of a kid's spirit in a grown-up body turning a corporate boardroom into a playground and winning. London, 1910, a man-shaped pile of cannonballs. Inside a granite bank that smells of ink and wool, George Banks snaps open his gold watch the way other men flick lint. Time must march in 2-minute increments or England will sink. Identical umbrellas, a ledger spine sharp enough to shave. Children he treats like unfiled memos, seen, not touched, dusted on Sundays. Even the ticking sounds judgmental. Then the east wind delivers Mary Poppins, carpetbag bottomless, gravity optional. She pulls a floor lamp from thin air, rates George a man-shaped pile of cannonballs, and sings without apology. Children follow her into chalk drawings where racehorses wear bow ties. Tea is served on the ceiling. Joy unpacks inside what already exists. George marches his children past brass lions to deposit tuppence for the empire, then marches them home, 2 tiny soldiers in a parade only he can see. The bank cracks. He's told he's misplaced 24 pence and must surrender his identity. On the empty street, he finds the broken kite he once scolded, carries it home through fog thick as failed ledgers, and knots a fresh crossbar with trembling fingers. Morning finds him in a park, hat askew, shouting punchlines to directors who've never heard a joke they couldn't audit. The joke lands, the kite lifts, and George rises only a foot, but enough. He returns to the bank, not as penitent clerk, but as co-partner, promoted because someone finally saw profit in a man who can balance books while humming nonsense. Briefcase in one hand, kite in the other. He commutes across London knowing gravity is negotiable. The chalk is still on his cuffs and the laughter still in his ledger. Joy didn't ask him to quit the empire. It only asked him to stop letting the empire quit him. In Hook, you thought you had to leave the corporate world behind to be free. And Mary Poppins' freedom was the key to the corporate world. This isn't movie fluff. It can be a balance sheet fact. Mike Veeck was vice president of promotions for the Chicago White Sox. He started with a riot, blew up disco records at Comiskey Park, watched the crowd burn vinyl on the field, got banned from baseball. Sports writers used his name as shorthand for promotion gone lethal. A lesser man would have crawled into a spreadsheet and never came out. Veeck bought the cheapest seats in the cheapest towns, minor league outposts where tumbleweeds outdrew fans, and opened the gates with a single rule: fun is good. Not garnish, not weekend mood, the whole business model. He raffled off funeral plots, let dogs fetch foul balls, invited nuns to give massages between innings. Seats filled, season ticket renewal hit 90%, and a 16 portfolio that began in the red sold for $25 million. Patch Adams didn't merely theorize about the joy of a child, he prescribed it. a medical student who checked himself into a psychiatric ward and concluded that the patients made more sense than the doctors. He graduated and promptly shattered every rule medicine had spent a century welding in place. He wore a clown nose on rounds, sang for terminal patients, and founded a free hospital in West Virginia where laughter was listed alongside medication as an official treatment protocol. The American medical establishment was not amused. He was investigated, threatened, and repeatedly told that dignity required distance, that a doctor who giggled with dying children wasn't serious enough to hold a scalpel. Yet his outcomes disagreed. Patients healed faster, tolerated pain better, and reported something the sterile model had stopped measuring. They felt human. What Adams understood and proved in actual wards with actual sick people is that the child's instinct for joy is not the opposite of competence. It is a delivery system for it. The clown nose was not a distraction from the medicine, it was the medicine. When you stop asking patients to behave and start asking them to breathe, they remember how lungs work, and the whole building begins laughing its way back to life. There was a TV show that never dimmed the living room lamp of a single kid's heart. The host kept the same tempo, tone, and sweater off camera. The only special effect was eye contact that said, "I'm here, really here." When the Senate tried to slash PBS funds, he read a children's song aloud, left the script on the table, and the committee chair just whispered, "You've got your money." No strategy, no spin. Just a man talking to other men the way he talked to 6-year-olds, and the armor melted like chocolate in a pocket. Jacques Cousteau never stopped tasting salt water like it was his first spoonful. At 70, he still squealed when a moray eel poked from its hole, still clapped his hands at dolphins racing the bow. Asked why he loved kids, he said, "They haven't nailed the wonder shut." He wore the same red cap for decades because it reminded him of the first time he dove under a wave and realized the world had a basement. Same fingerprint everywhere. Southwest Airlines founder Herb Kelleher arm wrestled a rival instead of calling lawyers, wore Elvis suits to the office, and told staff, "If it's not fun, we're doing it wrong." He once showed up at a shareholder meeting in a dress because the joke was worth more than the stock bump. Virgin boss Richard Branson still kite surfs to work, pulls April Fool's pranks on shareholders, and signs emails with a grin. Life's a game. Play. He once crashed a hot air balloon into a soccer field and apologized by handing out free tickets because chaos is just curiosity with wings. Dolly Parton, one of the most beloved entertainers alive, not because of fame or talent, but because of joy, humor, and a total lack of pretense. She's been offered the Medal of Freedom twice and turned it down. She gives away millions to children's literacy. When asked about her secret, she says, "Find out who you are and do it on purpose." She says the secret to her hair is the higher the hair, the closer to God, and means it. Anti-apartheid hero Desmond Tutu turned death threat calls into open mic nights, laughing so hard the bodyguards joined in. The Nobel Committee cited the infectious optimism of a child in his citation. He once danced barefoot on a stage with a gospel choir because joy is the only weapon that gets sharper the more you use it. Walk into some Fortune 500 boardrooms this month, and you'll find executives on their knees surrounded by Lego, not laptops. No spreadsheets, no decks, just 1,000 neon bricks spilled across mahogany like a kindergarten carpet. The assignment: solve next quarter's revenue problem before recess. They build, they laugh, they argue over whose tower is more customer-centric. Ideas that died in last week's strategy memo suddenly sprout wings because fingers moved before PowerPoint did. Stanford's D-School does the same bait and switch. CEOs arrive expecting innovation theory. They leave covered in glitter glue, cardboard prototypes clutched like trophies. Pixar's campus is a giant playground. Open atriums, random collisions, ping pong between story meetings. because Jobs knew the next Toy Story wouldn't hatch in a conference call. Google teaches VPs to say yes and, like 8-year-olds at improv camp. No blocking, just building. The Army runs war games with toy soldiers in sandbox sand because when lives are on the line, play is the fastest neural pathway to clarity. Across the planet, we're deleting the syllabus we once memorized for progress, copying the forerunners who always knew the real hack was a U-turn. Einstein famously chased light beams in his head while working at a patent office desk. He had asked, "What would I see if I rode alongside one and doodle on paper the way kids doodle on sidewalks?" That daydream became special relativity, and physics never looked the same. He summed it up simply, "I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious." Nobel laureate Richard Feynman said his breakthroughs came from playing with problems the way a kid plays with toys. One afternoon, he watched a Cornell cafeteria plate clatter the floor, started doodling the wobble, and followed the math for fun. That spiral of curiosity became the seed of quantum electrodynamics and a Nobel Prize. He later wrote, "I was doing it just for the fun of it." At 26, Jane Goodall stepped off a boat in Tanzania with no PhD, just binoculars, a notebook, and the curiosity most adults trade for tenure. Scientists stayed detached and numbered. She named them David Graybeard, Flo, and sat until the forest forgot her. One afternoon, she watched a chimp strip a twig and fish termites. Tool use. Until that moment, only humans made tools. Louis Leakey cabled the field. Redefine tool, redefine man, or accept chimps as human. One woman watching like a child reminded science that wonder is the only microscope you never have to put down. They're not saints, and neither is the kid. Real kids swipe cookies, yank the cat's tail, then bawl when the cat scratches back. That's not a flaw in the plan, it is the plan. This is not about polishing childhood until it gleams. It's about not guarding the fortress you built on top of it. Let the actual kid out, tantrums, weird obsessions, cookie crumbs, and all. None of them sobered up to get powerful. They stayed playful, and the world lined up behind them like kids waiting for the ice cream truck that only plays the song if you still know the words. They're not shiny from polish. They're lit from the last ember of the kid they refuse to bury. The one that still believes a stick can be a sword and a cardboard box can be a spaceship if you squint hard enough. You know the type. Around them, your shoulders drop, your laugh gets louder, and for a minute you remember the floor was once made of lava and everything was possible, even the part where you grow up without growing old. You felt it, vacation day 3, when the inbox stops buzzing and the sea starts whispering. Long weekend with no one needing anything from you except maybe a beer. Retreat where sitting still is a dare instead of a punishment. That moment when you laugh at nothing, breathe like you mean it, look at your partner like they're the only person in the room. That's the kid. That's the ocean inside you. Monday hits like a cold shower, inbox tsunami, boss on deck, kid in carpool lane. By Tuesday, the ocean's a postcard you can't find. By Friday, it never existed. You didn't lose the kid. You just let him starve while you fed the adult. The real question isn't, where did I leave him? But can I find him alive at 11:17 in Cube 4B with HR spouting buzzwords and Slack pings bouncing off my skull? Because for every guru on a mountaintop, there's Marco Rivera, 9:02 a.m., clicking approve payroll, while his gut wonders if next month's will clear. Eyes on the screen, heart in his throat, no mountain in sight. Elena Watts, flower in her hair at 3 a.m., lease renewal looming like a guillotine, oven timers dinging like alarms she can't shut off. Dev Okafor, parked in hospital lot C, steering wheel imprinting in his palms, doctor's words still echoing, Sunset smeared across the windshield, but he's staring at the asphalt. Rena Cole, hallway echoing with silence and slammed doors, 13-year-old behind one, unanswered text behind the other. Dinner for one. The business owner who made it, but is really an ego running the show, while the real him has been locked away for years. The one who hasn't made it, lying awake at 1:13 a.m., doing math on the ceiling, numbers that never add up to sleep. The parent Googling how to talk to your teenager at midnight, cursor blinking like a heartbeat that forgot how to speak. The woman whose heart broke so clean she can't remember what hope used to feel like. Rain on the window, no memory of why it ever felt like promise. No robes, no retreats, no book deals, no weekend workshops. Just Tuesday, fluorescent, anxious, ordinary Tuesday, where the ceiling is a spreadsheet and the carpet smells like coffee that's been sitting too long. I'm just asking, in the middle of that, right there, right then, is there still room for the kid? Not as a slogan, not as a retreat, not as an Instagram caption, just as a pulse that might still thump under the weight. Is it possible, without leaving the building, without missing the rent, without fixing the diagnosis, without solving the teenager, to let the child breathe? Is it possible to actually be the child, not mimic one, not borrow its tricks for team building or creative hacks, but to live inside an adult chassis with a child's unfiltered heart? To keep the rent paid, the kids fed, the taxes filed, yet meet the world with the same unarmored honesty that once stared at ants until the sky forgot to move? Can we carry the mileage, the degrees, the heartbreaks, but leave the performance at the door so that wonder, not worry, answers the next ping, the next bill, the next hard news? Is it possible to wear a lanyard and still carry the child's unfiltered heart? I used to think that was poetry. Then I met a woman who carpooled in traffic, negotiated vendor contracts, sat through quarterly reviews, filed expense reports, and still said good morning like it was the first one ever invented, who doodled in the margins of slide decks during meetings about KPIs, who tipped baristas with origami cranes she fielded while the teapot boiled. I was so struck by what I'd witnessed, I ran her story past every major AI system, ChatGPT, Cloud, Gemini, and others. I asked them to find a parallel, a single case study of someone who kept complete childhood innocence while navigating adult complexity. No monastery, no ocean, no TV studio, just an ordinary life. They came back empty. One finally put it this way. Her story reads like a thought experiment. What if someone could navigate spreadsheets and lease negotiations while retaining factory settings innocence? A thought experiment. That's what they called a living, breathing woman who right then was probably pushing open a glass door to a conference room, the kind with recycled air and a projector already humming. And the moment she stepped inside, the whole place got brighter, like someone had walked in carrying their own personal sunrise. A former colleague who survived the corporate grind beside her simply said to her, "In my next lifetime, I want to come back as you." I joke that I'm the president of her fan club, and it's a competitive position. People all over the world are moved by her presence. Anyone who encounters her walks away amazed, softened, or changed. Her story is the one that broke the database because nobody thought to look for it in a place full of cubicles.